Hey everybody, I see a lot of people make these what I watched last month videos, and I thought they'd be kind of fun to tip my hat into the ring as well with what I watched last month, which was December. I'm gonna break this up into a couple categories: what I watched in theaters, what I streamed, what I watched that I physically own. And if you want to jump to any specific movie, there will be timestamps to all of the movies, so feel free to jump around if you want to. All these reviews will be spoiler free as well. So for theaters, I watched 2 movies in theaters this month, one of those being Godzilla Minus One. I gotta admit, I love this film. Godzilla Minus One might be my second favorite Godzilla movie. Just awesome. It's so nice to have a Godzilla movie where you actually care about the characters, or just a kaiju movie in general where you actually care about the human characters, because this is a human story first and foremost, with an absolute devastating destruction of Godzilla and war as a backdrop. Not to say Godzilla doesn't get a lot of screen time, because the monster does, and it's awesome, but you actually really care about the characters. The story is about a kamikaze pilot who lands on an island where the planes get repaired because he's kind of having second thoughts on his whole kamikaze plan when Godzilla shows up and destroys the island that they're on, and he gets sent back to his homeland that is also devastated thanks to the war. There he meets a woman and an orphan child. They kind of create this family dynamic kind of thing going on. Then Godzilla starts walking around Tokyo like a big playground, and yeah, it's awesome. The CG can look shaky in moments, but for the most part looks fairly decent. Godzilla looks awesome. I love the choice to make him look close to the original. It just looks really cool. The sound design is great. The musical choices is awesome. And yeah, this is a killer monster movie that's almost kind of like a horror movie. Every time Godzilla's on screen, you really don't know what's going to happen, and I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. The other film I saw in theaters is The Iron Claw. This is a relentless slamfest tragedy about the Von Erich family and the Von Erich curse. Going into this, I didn't know a ton about the Von Erichs outside of just growing up watching wrestling and kind of knowing about them and the Von Erich curse, but that doesn't really entail to me exactly what happened or who these people really are. And going into it though, I do feel like the film was really respectful to the sources on just how they wanted to present this story and the Von Erich curse. You know, this is a film about the Von Erich wrestling family and just the constant tragedy falling behind them, but it's led by an amazing performance by Zac Efron, who really, as the center of the film, holds everything together. Not saying everybody else isn't great too, because really the performances across the board are really well done, but Efron really shines here, and I personally think he deserves an Oscar nom for it. The cinematography is great. I love how they present the whole, pro wrestling is fake angle, where they make it real to the performers. There's a sense of like showmanship there that, if you perform well showmanship wise, you perform your in-action stunts well, then you'll have a chance at a real title shot. You'll have a chance to grow. And it presents kind of this rat race competitiveness that really kind of made it a real sport for not only the performers but for the audience as well. It's a really cool way to kind of tackle and analyze that. The father is one of the most heinous villains I have seen in a hot second without being super cartoonish. And yeah, every time this film just left a pit in my stomach walking out of the theater, but like in a good way. It's just relentless, and it stirred so much emotion in me that I just really loved it, and I'm giving this one an 8.5 as well. Now on to the movies I've streamed. On Disney Plus, I streamed Meet the Robinsons, which is a film that I've always just kind of wanted to see but just never did. I don't know why I skipped this one, especially with it being kind of centered around more science fiction-y. It feels like it'd be kind of more up my alley, and after watching it, like, it's not bad. I didn't love it either, but it's not bad. It's like one of those movies that's just right down the middle. It's one of them that I probably would have enjoyed more as a kid and then held some nostalgia to it, but as an adult, it's just kind of right down the middle. The film is about an orphan named Lewis who is an inventor when a kid kind of shows up to this science fair, and he gets sucked into the future while this other person is trying to basically kidnap him in a way. It's kind of a wacky plot that definitely leaves a lot of plot holes thanks to the whole time travel aspect of it, but it's not bad. It's not a bad way to kill like an hour and a half, and it's a 5 out of 10. With it being December, we did watch some Christmas movies, one of them being Christmas with the Campbells. Now, I feel like you should know going into this what this is. This is a parody of a Hallmark style Christmas movie that I really kind of feel like if you didn't know that going into it, I don't think you would really know what's going on, because I don't feel like it conveys that it's a parody super duper well. And that's maybe commendable, because you're making a pretty honest to God Hallmark Christmas movie, but you're also parodying it enough to kind of make it this kind of weird vibe movie in a way. Justin Long does this weird southern accent through the whole thing that I don't know, it's just kind of goofy. This whole movie is kind of goofy. I'm not a big fan of Christmas movies. I definitely have my niche of Christmas movies that I really like, but I would definitely watch this one again because it kind of lives in this space of just being really corny and kind of odd. Has some really cringe dialogue. The film is basically about a woman getting dumped by her boyfriend or fiance, and then her just still going to his parents for the weekend where she meets Justin Long, who's a cousin, I believe, and then they kind of have, you know, the romance occur. It's just odd. There's some weird one-liners, like "that's not my Dairy Queen" or whatever. That I feel like I don't know where they come from. It's just so bizarre. It's a 5 out of 10. It's one that it could maybe go up on a second viewing, but while there are some things I really like about it, the fact that, you know, it is a parody of a Hallmark movie and that whole genre, there's definitely moments that because you're within those frames of being that parody, that just didn't work for me. But I would watch this one again. I know this is my wife's one of her favorite Christmas movies that she stumbled across, I think last year, and wanted to show me this year, and I would probably watch it again. But it's a 5 out of 10. It's weird, it's kind of goofy, but yeah, 5 out of 10. Next, I watched on Peacock, I watched Strays, and this might be one of the worst movies I've saw in 2023. This movie is horrendous. The entire film is basically one joke, which is the dogs that are in this film are vulgar. If you don't know what this is a film about talking dogs voiced by Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx, and other actors, where the dog voiced by Will Ferrell, the owner, is abusive to him and keeps trying to dump him off somewhere, but he always finds his way back home until the owner drives hours and hours away, dumps him off into a city where he befriends Jamie Foxx's dog and their little dog pal group. And the entire joke, there's no other joke than that these dogs are vulgar. A lot of like vulgar sex humor with dogs, a lot of poop humor, pee humor, and it's weird because like every scene they have to sexualize these dogs, and it's not funny, it's just really cringe. This entire movie is just cringe. There's not one joke that made me laugh. Every time I was just rolling my eyes. This is like painful to sit through. I was just waiting for this to be over. The only positive thing that I'll say about this movie at all is the fact that they actually used real dogs. It's not CGI'd. They used real dogs with real like trainers, and that's kind of cool. However, they do this weird CG over the face for their mouth movements, but they also do this thing where they try to make the facial expressions as well when they talk. So like eye movements and like eyebrow things, a lot of like, it looks like CG blinking and stuff, and it's really like uncanny. Like it's really weird looking. Outside of that though, I think this movie is absolute garbage. It's a 1.5 out of 10 for me, and I hated it. It's one of the worst movies of the year. Up next on Paramount Plus is Good Burger 2. If you want some member berries? You remember when you were a kid and life was halfway decent? Do you remember? Good Burger 2. 3 out of 10. Violent Night was another rewatch for Christmas this year, and yeah, it still holds up. It's a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I think I did a short review of it last year. This is one that could easily be in like, I don't know if I want to do it yearly, but like every other year Christmas rotation. It's just a fun, kind of corny action movie. David Arbor is a lot of fun as Santa. There is some actually good action in the film. It's not afraid to be violent, which is nice. Yeah, it's good. It's a good, solid Christmas movie, 7 out of 10. If you don't know what this is, David Arbor plays a downbeaten Santa Claus. When he goes to deliver some packages, he goes to this rich family's house to deliver for this little girl when a gang of thugs shows up to try to hold the family for ransom. And Santa must step up and slay. You know what I mean? Yeah, 7 out of 10. Pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. You can check this one out. I don't remember what app we watched this one on, to be honest with you. But I know it's streaming around. Is it on? I think it might be on Amazon. Up next, this one's on Disney Plus, is Strange Magic. This is a film my wife watched and she wanted me to watch it. It's a film written by George Lucas of Star Wars, and it's strange. The film is basically about two factioned forests. One's a fairy kind of forest and the other one's like a dark forest. When a fairy kind of winds up in there, the Bog King thinks they're trying to make a love potion, so he wants revenge by kidnapping one of the fairy king's daughters. And yeah, there's like some cool ideas here. There's some really cool world building. I like a lot of their creature designs. There's one thing I really liked, which was the mushrooms in the Dark Kingdom. They use mushrooms to kind of transfer information, but there's a constant running gag that is like the game telephone, you know, where you have like a chain of people. You say one thing like the color is purple, and by the time it gets to the information, it's like they want a Big Mac with cheese. You know what I mean? And there's a running gag that's how the Dark World gets their information. and it's really funny, and it was constantly funny every time they brought it back around. Yeah, a lot of cool character designs. I like the world that this is being set in. On the fairy side, you have a person who's striving to be king, so he's trying to work his way into being, basically trying to get this love potion to force one of the princesses to love him so he can kind of take over. There's some really cool ideas being presented here. However, there are some weird things about this movie. First off, this is a musical, but it's I learned a new term, a jukebox musical, where it's a musical, but every film in the song is a licensed film. But what this film does even weirder is almost every musical moment in this film is two licensed songs mushed together, which was really awkward and kind of weird for the most part. A lot of the time the musical choices doesn't fit. It probably would have been a lot better if it wasn't a musical. Also, the music doesn't really like coincide very much with the tone of the scene, doesn't coincide very much with the story of the scene. You know, a lot of time when you have a musical, the musical elements are there to bolster the story. They interact with the story elements. It doesn't really feel like the case here. They're just musical numbers. It's kind of weird. I know they're trying to do it, but it just didn't work in my opinion. Another thing that I personally really didn't like was the mother character, the Bog King. It really served as a Jar Jar Binks for this film and really undermines some of the some of the Bog King's like tension, because the Bog King is a great character that feels constantly undermined by his mother, which I understand works for the story, but in terms of watching it, I was like, go away. You know what I mean? I'm like on the Bog King side of being like, go away. Yeah, overall it's a 6 out of 10 for me. It's a pretty enjoyable. I love the animation. The animation felt cartoonish, but also felt sharp and detailed. Really like the world design. Would have liked to have seen this done in a different way, but it's a 6 out of 10. Another Christmas movie we watched, I believe we watched this one on Peacock, was Better Watch Out. I have no idea why I said it like that. Better Watch Out from 2016. This is a film that started off as a pretty bad home invasion thriller, but then turned into something that I really enjoyed. Now, I don't want to talk about spoilers, so just kind of go into this one without really knowing much, and I feel like it would work a lot better if you did that. I feel like this is one of those films that might not work as well on a second viewing, but for a one-time viewing or a first exposure viewing, it was pretty effective. When the film does finally reveal its hand and kind of go down the path that it goes down, it really made some ballsy decisions that I was like, wow, you know what I mean? It really kind of caught me off guard, and they made some cool decisions that I really enjoyed. But with that being said, the performances here can be really hit or miss. Some can be pretty solid, and at other times others can be pretty stiff and unbelievable, which kind of sucks when, you know, the main cast is kind of here to kind of sell the emotion, and one of them doesn't really do a very good job at that. They also do a decision to write one of the characters to kind of undersell a lot of things, which really kind of felt like it undermined the tone a bit. I do kind of feel like the film didn't know if it wanted to be flat out disturbing or a comedy, and because of that, I really feel like it didn't balance those tones very well. But outside of that, I did find some moments of it to be kind of funny, and I did find some moments of it to really kind of pack a punch and be disturbing. Even if it was unbalanced for the most part, there were moments that really worked, and you know, I gotta admit, like I said, it started off, I wasn't very into it, and then it picked up, and then I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, and it's a 6 out of 10. It's also not really a Christmas movie. It's kind of a Christmas movie in the sense that it's just a movie set in Christmas time, but yeah, 6 out of 10. A short film that I streamed on YouTube is Dancing Man by Dylan England. I'll have a link down in the description if you want to go check that out. Definitely check it out. It's a really cool little short film that was shot on an iPhone. I'm starting to slur my words together, I feel like, but that was shot on an iPhone. I know that he wrote this film really quickly. I know they shot it really quickly. I gotta be honest, it looks great. It really looks really great for being shot on an iPhone. It's a fun story. The performances are pretty decent, but I just remember thinking to myself when the film ended and it kind of shows you what's going on, I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, that's a really cool idea that could work developed even further. It's yeah, I don't want to say too much. Definitely just go check this one out. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Check out Dylan's channel as well. He makes some great content. We've done some collaborations together. Yeah, Dancing Man, pretty cool. Shot on an iPhone. I know some people's like shooting movies on iPhones, but like, it's just wild to me that you can literally just go, I made a movie and it's right here. You know what I mean? So really cool, very experimental. Good job, Dylan. Can't wait to see more from you. Oh boy, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, the new Zacky Snyder film on Netflix. hot garbage. Holy smokes, this film was hot garbage. First off, I'm gonna say this. I like Zack Snyder. Not everything he's done I've liked, but I do like him in the sense that I'll probably watch anything he puts out because there's some kind of talking point, I guess, probably with his films. But like, I think he's a good visual guy. Like, they're like, you watch a lot of his past films, there's a good like eye for visuals. That's not here. there's all the positives that I can think about Zack Snyder in the past are just completely absent in Rebel Moon. This is just a collage of other sci-fi epics void of any originality, style, or character. The film is about trying to cram basically an entire universe of lore into, what is this, like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something? The film basically is about it's Star Wars. It's basically Star Wars. Basically Star Wars, you know? A basically, you know, promised child in a way fighting an intergalactic empire against all odds with a rebel faction. It's Star Wars. Not only that is, because this is a part one of a I'm assuming two-part series, the film feels incomplete on its own. I just watched the first 2 acts of a story rather than a complete story with this film. The lead character had zero personality or zero, like, I don't even remember what her name is. Like, like, she's just a blank void that really does nothing but serve the plot. Like, I get what they're going for, but it just didn't translate. And like, I think about like all the action that Zack Snyder's, you know, done throughout his career, all the things I like about Zack Snyder. Like I said, he does handle action fairly well. Not here. Like, here it's like, it feels unchoreographed. It feels like it's using slow motion to hide the lack of choreographing the action out. The film is filled with CG, which, I mean, Zack Snyder's films always has been. But like, for the most part, like, I look back to his other films and like the CG elements have like held up. Like, it's still like a fairly good looking film. And even though Netflix's like bitrate is god awful, so I can't judge the CG completely, it still felt like it just wasn't very good CG. That it just felt like it looked very fake the entire time I was watching it. But again, I'm not going to judge too much because Netflix's horrible bitrate, I couldn't like actually like crisply see this. This is one I would maybe consider buying on Blu-ray just to watch it without Netflix's bitrate compression, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, it just felt like an incomplete experience. It felt derivative. It felt like other sci-fi films I've seen just doing it worse. You know, Zack Snyder's not a director that I think is like, you know, Zack Snyder's not a director I think is like top tier or anything, but like everything I like from Snyder is just absent here, and it's a 2 out of 10. I will watch the second part, but not a lot of high hopes. A film I watched on Hulu, The Retirement Plan. This is a new Nick Cage film with Ron Perlman about Nick Cage's daughter and her husband, boyfriend. Basically, they work for organized crime headed by Jake, what's his name? I can't even think what his name is in Watchmen now. Rorschach. The guy who plays Rorschach. Anyway, so her and him decide to steal this thumb drive that has a bunch of information on him and his boss and a whole bunch of other people as a insurance policy to basically get out of that life. There's some other twists and turns that I'm not going to spoil for the film, but basically they give the thumb drive to their daughter and send her off to Nicolas Cage, who is the woman's father, basically this girl's grandfather, and he is Machete, basically. I mean, you know, he's Steven Seagal, if you will. But yeah, it's not good. First off, the two positive things is Nick Cage and Ron Perlman. They're both fun to watch. They don't really get any screen time together, which kind of sucks, but both of them are fun to watch. Ron Perlman is one of my favorite actors, and so is Nicolas Cage. And while Nick Cage does kind of this weird, I wouldn't say it's a weird performance in terms of Nick Cage, but this, I don't know, he feels directionless, I guess, in this performance, if that makes any sense. Ron Perlman is clearly here just for a paycheck, but I love seeing Ron Perlman on screen. Yeah, and that's what this film kind of feels like. One of the trivias on IMDb is that Nicolas Cage took this role to hang out with Ron Perlman again. It really does kind of feel like neither one of them really care about this film. As for the film itself, you know, it all the trappings of like low budget, straight to video kind of movies. Action's bad, cinematography is horrendous, the film looks incredibly cheap, performances are pretty bad across the board. The story is just kind of boring, it just kind of drags on and on and on and on. This felt like it was never going to end. If you want to check it out, it's on Hulu. It's a 2 out of 10. One of the bigger surprises I think I've seen recently is on Netflix, and it's called Leo. This is the newest Adam Sandler project where he voices a old lizard with his tank mate Bill Burtle. I'm stealing that joke from YMS. Bill Burr plays a turtle in this called Squirtle, or a tortoise, I guess, and so Bill Burtle But anyway, I honestly went into this one with no expectations, but I found it to be kind of like pleasantly surprising. There's actually like some decent humor in the film. There's some dumb humor as well, but there's actually some decent humor that kind of caught me off guard and made me chuckle. The whole story is just goofy, and it leans into how goofy it is. The film is a musical where most of the songs are kind of pointless, but there's a couple of tunes that got a genuine laugh out of me. The animation looks cheap, but they do kind of give themselves that freedom to use the animation for some fun gags. Adam Sandler does a goofy Adam Sandler voice the entire movie, but it kind of works well. It's like one of those ones, like when he first does it, you're like, oh, he's doing this. But by the end of the film, it actually feels legitimately like the character, which is kind of a weird turn. But the film is super predictable, but it does come up with a lot of original ways to kind of play into that predictability that I thought worked pretty well. And yeah, this one was just rather enjoyable. It's a 6 out of 10. It was surprisingly fun, and I enjoyed it. A rewatch for me on Paramount Plus was Madagascar, the first one. My wife had never seen this, and I was putting together Legos. She was putting together this gumball machine that I got her that was like build your own gumball machine. Just fun things we got each other for Christmas, and we put this on, and it's kind of in the background, and it's decently enjoyable. Some ugly animation. It's a 5 out of 10. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Madagascar. I've seen it before. I've watched it again. I would watch it again. It's just kind of like a decent background movie. Yeah, it's not bad. There's some decent humor. You know, if you don't know what the story is, I guess I will say, I don't know how you wouldn't know about Madagascar by now, but come on, you know, step your game up, step your movie knowledge up. Only true cinephiles know about the true history of the Madagascar universe. Now on to maybe the worst film I've seen of 2023, The Exorcist Believer. Holy smokes. First off, I want to say this. I've heard nothing but bad things about this movie. I've not heard hardly anything good about this movie, but I was not expecting it to be this bad. Holy smokes. I hated this movie. After watching and loving the original Exorcist, I finally decided that we would throw on Exorcist Believer. I don't know why I did that. First off, I'm kind of sick of this whole return to like horror franchise thing. Just let shit die. Come up with new IPs. But outside of that, my problem with these kind of movies is they have no clue what made the original special. Not an iota. They have no idea what made the original good. They have no idea what made the original special. And so when they make these remakes, oh my god. First off, this utilized none of the tools of the original, but instead just kind of boiled down into a generic, terribly acted, terribly shot, just waste of time. What the original had going for it that worked so well was not only the great performances by the main cast that's absent here, but you also had the fact that it played on what was actually happening with characters it built to make you care about the characters. That doesn't happen here. The film basically just starts off with the girls going missing. You don't really get to learn very much about them. You don't get to care about them. They come back, and then the Exorcist stuff happens, and it's stupid. It's dumb. The makeup looks horrendous. Like, the makeup is laughably bad. Like, it looked absolutely terrible. You know, the original from like 70 something, like you see it now and you're like, that's not very believable, but it's not bad either. Like, it's decent makeup. This looks goofy. This looks like one of those sponges capsules that you throw in water and it like is halfway to unfolding is what it looks like. It looks dumb. Every time I saw it, I couldn't take it seriously. I just laughed at it because it looked so bad. All the effects are like that. There's no effect in the movie that I thought looked good. I thought they all looked goofy. They undermined the horror tenfold. Then, bring it on there, you bring back Ellen Burstyn to basically do nothing with her character, undermine her from the original character, kind of insult the original character in the original film, and then just throw her away. It was a complete waste. I know Ellen Burstyn, I believe, don't hold me to this, only did this movie because they threw a bunch of money at this charity or a bunch of money at her. I don't know. But there's a lot of money involved. But I know she didn't really want to return for it. She shouldn't have. She shouldn't have. It was such a waste of time and so disrespectful to the original character. I have no idea why they would want to make this decision or do it. There's no build up to the possession. There's no question on how the film will play out because it's incredibly predictable. There's no horror because of how laughably bad the scare scenes actually are. Yeah, and all the characters just take in information the dumbest way possible. It's a 1 out of 10. I hated this. It might be the worst film of the year. Even a film like The Flash, I found like something slightly redeemable. There's nothing redeemable here. It's a 1 out of 10. Hated it. Goodbye to that movie. Moving on to the next one. Now we're getting into the stack of stuff that I actually own. The little lot here of stuff that I actually own. Some of these are recent pickups. Actually, I think they all are recent pickups besides one, which is the rewatch. But I picked up Wall-E on Criterion. I picked this up during the November Criterion sale. This is a Disney movie that I've been wanting to rewatch for quite some time. I don't think I've watched Wall-E since theaters, or maybe like right outside of high school. It's been a hot second. We rewatched it, and yeah, it's great. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. I love the story. There's like very little dialogue, but there's so much being said. Not only is this like a movie on environmentalism, but it's also kind of a movie on, I don't know if like taking for granted is the right term, but yeah, maybe taking for granted things. I always want to say granite. And I know it's not taking for granted. It's just that's the way my mouth mushes it together. Taking for granted. But yeah, it's really, really well done. The animation, like I said, is just absolutely gorgeous. The Criterion edition just looks great. I'm glad I finally picked this one up. I'm glad I gave it a rewatch. It's an 8 out of 10. I know this one's on Disney Plus if you want to watch it, but yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. Really great. We'll definitely be watching again. I gotta admit, this actually might be the biggest surprise of the year for me, and that is Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. And I gotta admit, I really enjoyed this film. I really did. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I actually really enjoyed this one quite a bit. I didn't like Turning Red very much. I have a lot of issues with Turning Red that I feel like this movie covers. This is Turning Red. This is the exact same movie as Turning Red, but I think personally way better. And I feel like I'm gonna get some hate for that because this movie wasn't very well received. Turning Red was very well received, but I have the complete opposite. Like, I thought Turning Red was just bland, boring, not really that interesting, couldn't get behind it. Completely different experience here. The film is about Ruby Gillman, who is a teenager who's in this like metamorphosis of like finding out that she is a giant kraken. It's goofy, because her and her family are living in the human world disguised as humans, and it's like, oh come on, you're not human, let's be real here. There is a good core of self-discovery. The animation is really gorgeous. I love the animation design. The characters are, you can kind of see in the cover here, are kind of like rounded, very cartoonish. The world they're set in is awesome. I love the town they're set in. A lot of the designs for the buildings have a very nautical theme, kind of very Splatoonish kind of vibe to it. I don't know how else to say it, but there's also some good dynamics between the family that worked really well here for me, between the mother, between the grandmother, between the daughter, the whole family dynamic. There's also messages here about generational trauma being passed down, and it's really good. Yeah, it's a great film about just self-discovery, about kind of coming into fruition. It's basically the exact same thing as Turning Red, almost to a T. For me, I thought the family dynamics were better. I liked the animation designs better here, and I liked how the family kind of comes together a lot better as well. I feel like the message was more full circle here. That's me personally. Very, very similar to Turning Red, but a lot more fun. Big surprise, 7 out of 10. Up next is a movie I'm not going to talk too much about because I think I'm going to do a video that will have this in it, but Kncuklehead. This is a movie I got my wife for Christmas. It's one of the movies she likes with the Big Show from wrestling. Well, it's the Big Show, big bad show tonight. Anyway, he plays a 35-year-old orphan. A lot of orphans this month. Holy smokes. He plays a 35-year-old orphan, basically works at the orphanage now at this point, who there's a fire at the orphanage because he's so big. He is the Big Show. A fight promoter is like, hey man, I'm down on my luck. You're big. Let's go fight and we'll make a lot of money and we'll help rebuild the orphanage and I will not get killed by this mafia guy. So they do that. They travel around getting to this big fight tournament and it's goofy. There's literally an entire scene that's a poop joke. I don't have a whole lot to say about it because like I said, I do want to cover this in a video idea that I have, but yeah, goofy. It's a 5 out of 10. It's 5 out of 10. This next film is a film that a friend got me for Christmas that I knew nothing about, never even heard of it, but Ikarie XB1, also known as Ikaris XB1 from 1963. This is a science fiction film. I'm not gonna lie to you, blew me away. It really did. It blew me away. So thank you for my friend for getting this for me. This is a region-free release from Second Run, but it looks gorgeous. This film is from 1963, has some amazing shot composition. I love the contrasted image, really mashed blacks, and it's black and white. The film built this gorgeous set design to take place of. The entire film is basically inside of the Icarus or the Ikarie ship, and they built this amazing set, and they were like, we are going to show you this set, and it looks awesome. There's so many frames I would just pick out of this film and throw it on a poster. Like, it's gorgeous. The cinematography is gorgeous. gorgeous to look at. It's a visual feast. Not only that is, the way the film decides to block some scenes of just like character dialogue keeps it fresh and invigorating. I don't know what word I'm trying to use there, but it just looks great. It keeps the runtime flowing nicely. The story itself is about the Ikarie team and the ship going to the Alpha Centauri to find planets that have life on it, and along the way they come across a dark star that slowly starts to radiate poison them, give them radiation poisoning. There is actually some really kind of harrowing stuff to look at. There's a scene where they go on this other ship, and I don't want to say too much, but it's kind of gnarly. There's some great effects here. In terms of like visual effects, like it's impeccable. Some of the CG effects look absolutely amazing. There's only one time where I was like, that looks dated. Everything looks like it would be on par with today's standards. Like, it's amazing how old this movie and how great it looks. In terms of the story, I got really hooked into the story, got really hooked into the cast. It's one that I will definitely be watching again. I really, really loved it. It's an 8 out of 10. Could go up on a second viewing, could go down, but it's a film that is just under 90 minutes that I definitely think if you're a fan of science fiction, this is honestly a must. Never heard of this before, loved it. Next up, another big movie, Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is the new Chris Nolan movie that has gotten a lot of buzz. I guarantee this will be nominated for a crap ton of awards. This comes with a disc of special features, over 3 hours of special features that I will definitely be checking out because, yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. This might be one of Nolan's best. It's a 3-hour movie that doesn't feel 3 hours at all. It's a film about Oppenheimer, who I knew very little about going into it. I don't know how accurate it is, but cool enough anyway. The film is led by Cillian Murphy, but I mean, every turn there's like, there's that guy. You know, me and a friend watched this together, and we were literally doing that meme from that meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hey, oh. You know, it's like, holy smokes. There's people who just show up and they literally like big names and they have one line of dialogue. You're just like, you know what I mean? It was fun. But outside of that, the way this film is edited, the editing of this film is just impeccable. It has such a fast-paced flow for a 3-hour movie. This, I mean, it literally flew by. This does not feel like 3 hours at all. It doesn't even feel like 2 hours. This feels like an hour and a half movie. That's how fast this is. The way that Nolan decides to tell this story non-linear, to kind of bounce around between different subjects and different time periods, really does keep it really fresh and really moving fast. My biggest complaint, I will say this, visually the film looks great visually. The effects are super well done, very impressive visually. There's some great scenes of cinematography. That being said though, my two biggest complaints is, one, I don't know why Nolan can't just shoot the entire film on IMAX. I don't know why, like, the changing aspect ratio is just so annoying. It's like, I don't know if it's just like on the home release or what, but like, it's so random. It's like random scenes where you're like, why'd you shoot that in IMAX but not this? You know what I mean? It's just such random moments where the aspect ratio changes, and it's annoying. It gets annoying after a while. It just does. It happens with like every one of his films. It's a complaint I've always had. It's just, if there was a rhyme or reason to it, like, oh, all the big action set pieces are IMAX, I'd be like, okay. But it's like, there'll just be a scene where it's not IMAX, and they'll cut to a random wide shot of them getting up out of a table, and it's on IMAX, and it goes back to it, and it's like, why? You know? It's like, it's really, I don't know, it's confusing. There's also some noticeable differences when they change cameras. You can tell in the color grade that these are different cameras. I don't feel like the color grading throughout the entire film matched super duper well. And then my last complaint, my biggest complaint for the entire film, was how Nolan decided to handle the dialogue scenes. Every scene is a shot reverse shot on dialogue, cutting on the end of dialogue, to where it made a lot of these dialogue scenes really stagnated and really frustrating to sit through, because you have so many other things in this film that are meticulous. You have so many other things in this film that are, in terms of visuals even, that are really well thought out, that are very immaculate in the visuals, very well done. And then you get to these dialogue scenes and it's literally just reverse shot, reverse shot, cut on dialogue. It's a little frustrating as the time goes on, because it kind of comes off as, I don't know if lazy is the right word or maybe just incompetent, but it's just like, you can do better. And I know Nolan can do better. I've seen him do better. So it's like, I don't know why you're doing this. Like, there's so many times where I was just like, don't cut here. You know what I mean? Like, you can linger here. You can do something different. In every dialogue scene too, it's not even like the camera really changes. It is literally reverse shot. Camera A, camera B, cut, 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 cut. Moving on to the next scene. And yeah, it just, after a while, it got kind of annoying where it's just like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? I expect more from you, I guess. But 8 out of 10 for Oppenheimer. Really, really loved it. 8 out of 10. The last film I'm going to talk about and the last rewatch is Paddington. I've seen this movie a ton. I have really no complaints about this film. This was a film that we had family over to watch a film in our home theater, and they picked Paddington. Yeah, it's cute. It's adorable. Really, really love it. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Holds up really well. This film is going on 10 years old, and the CGI still looks phenomenal. I mean, honestly, like the CGI is like flawless. Like it's really, really good. Yeah, really good. Really fun. Really cute. Love Paddington. If someone asked me, hey, you want to watch Paddington tomorrow? I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. You know? And then the last thing I'm going to talk about real quick. That's it for movies. But I do want to talk real quick. A game I've been playing. I've been playing Super Mario RPG a lot. And that was a game that I got from Christmas from my wife. And I just wanted to say that I really, really love it. I've been having a total blast playing it. The game, I should say, is about Mario finding the star pieces of the Star Road that crashed around. There's also this new villain sword guy that I'm not familiar with. And yeah, it's a JRPG, turn-based action, and I've been absolutely loving it. I'm like 5 hours into it right now, 5 or 6, somewhere around there, and I've been absolutely loving it. So shout out to Mario RPG. But thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. I think I'm going to do this maybe once a month. We'll see. I don't know. Watched a lot of movies in December, but thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking this out. If you want to support me, you can become a member here on YouTube or join my Patreon. They get you the same perks. If you want to check out anytime I stream, there's a link to my Twitch down below. There's also a link to my gaming channel, my Letterboxd, all other things. If you want to see this stuff, if you want to know like what I'm watching or my opinions on movies early or my ratings on movies early, you can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm very quick on like, oh, I watched this movie either the day before or the day after. I will put it on Letterboxd. Check that out. Don't mind spelling errors because I don't ever proof it. I just normally type it real fast and move on. So ignore that. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, everybody.